So right now we're going to bring on Sam. How are you, Sam? Thank you.
I'm great. I'm sitting here just shaking my head yes to everything from, finding that team when you have out-of-state investors to taking the leap and owning something. And I will say everything you said, Ebere, about owning your own business, you can say the same thing about owning real estate. Right? Because if you rent and you rent, yeah, it may be cheaper to rent, maybe a little less expensive, maybe more, financially wise in the short term, like this month, but you can't look at it at this month. You can't look at it as, you got to look at where are you putting your money and what are you going to get out of it once you leave that rental or that home? Am I going to be able to get any money back because I own? Or am I just going to walk away and they just took $180,000 of my money in rent for the last however many years, and they're walking away with it? So, I mean, I have, we outright own 3 homes now. I didn't pay them off. The renters, the 3 of them, they paid them off. So I guess I'll start. Sam Haberlach. I am proof positive that an ADHD person can be successful in business. I don't know if you can tell. Most people can, because I don't hold back. I am who I am. When I was 23 years old, I decided I was enlisted in the Air Force, and I decided I want to do ROTC. And first thing I did was buy a property, because how does a 23-year-old single woman live through college and put herself through college? I got the scholarship, but I needed a place to live. I needed income to help pay for that place to live. So I bought a house, a 3-bedroom house, and it was what I needed. Just like, just like we're talking about, and everything you were saying, Sharon, is the same thing. If you want something for yourself, see if there's a way to house hack. I house hacked 24 years ago. 26 years ago. Oh my God, I'm getting old. So I was 23, got a 4-bedroom house, 3 roommates in College Town, and they paid for my roommates paid for my food and my board. It was completely covered. So cash flow to help pay for food, pretty much automatic. Since then, I've spent 26 years in the Air Force. So every once in a while I'd move, we'd buy a house to live in, I'd sell that house and buy another property with the proceeds from that house. So as you collect your wealth, even if you're not in a place for military that's out there, even if you're not in a place where you can buy yourself, Germany or Korea, that's okay. Buy something in your hometown. That's how we now own 3 homes in Oregon, because I'm originally from Oregon. Fast forward, I was a corporate executive. Same conversation. I wasn't exactly happy. I was getting a W-2. I was making good money, but it's like a prayer moment. Do I continue with this W-2 and continue to help somebody else get $100 million contracts for their business? And I'm over here on the side going, yay, one for the team. I'm really excited for the team. Or do I break away and, a lot of prayers, a lot of research. What do I want to do with my life? I'm pushing 50. Where do I want to be in a few more years, and prepare for that future? So as I'm praying for that, as I'm trying to think through what I want my life to be in the future, I thought back to, somebody said, if it's your hobby, if you can make money in your hobby. And I'm like, what's been my hobby? Owning houses. And so when we finally owned we were able to pay off 3 of those houses. Well, the renters, paid off 3 of our houses. That was the moment, because I had my Air Force. I had a few other forms of income, passive incomes coming in. So that was the moment that it's like, I don't need to I will never be a pushy real estate agent, ever, 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 ever. So that was the moment when I'm like, I can give advice to my friends, and I can do it as a real estate agent, and I can be a true agent that is fiduciarily responsible to my client, not to myself, and help them. And to me, that includes being able to have a conversation with a homeowner to say, should you rent or should you sell? And I have a client she's buying a bigger house. I'm like, rent or old. Here's the reasons. Here's the return on investment for keeping that home that you've had. Everything looks good. The numbers look good. Keep it. And then the person decides if they want to keep it or if they want to sell it. So taking the time to really think about, you talk about strategy, taking the time to look at the numbers, understanding the numbers. Ask Ebere if you don't know how to do those numbers on return on investment. making sure that you're thinking through those decisions and not making snap decisions. And if you don't want to be a property manager, hire one. Because I saw one comment on there, how often do you increase the rent? When the market calls for it, that's when you should increase the rent. But how do you figure out when if the market's calling for it? Property manager, that's one of their big time jobs. Every year they should be looking at what the market calls for that home in that location, and increasing the rent if it's called for. Because the last thing you want to do is have a home for 15 years and then you find out that you're making $1,000 less a month than you should, because it didn't increase every single year like it should have, or every other year like it should have, and you weren't taking advantage of that. And those renters are never going to leave. You're going to have to they're going to leave kicking and screaming, because they're $1,000 under 20. They're paying $1,400 instead of $2,400 a month. They're never going to want to leave. So, that's definitely have the advice of a real estate agent or a property manager. Have somebody in your team on your side to help you. So that when you own these homes, we have 3 in Oregon, 1 in Virginia, and 4 4 homes, 4 doors. If it's a multiplex, 4 doors down in Florida. So 8 doors total. So do the numbers beforehand. Find a way to do those numbers before you buy. If you're going straight into a rental, like you're buying and you're only purchasing it for a rental, do the numbers beforehand. But if you own now and you're thinking about upgrading and keeping your old, do the numbers before you sell it. Don't let some random agent out there tell you, oh, you should sell. Not always. You shouldn't always sell. In fact, most of the time you should probably keep it. Just depends on your situation, and if you can make more money in another location. Maybe you should sell and go buy in South Carolina or Florida, because that's where you might get a better return on investment for a particular situation. Or invest. There's other ways to invest in real estate, as yours covered in the past with syndicates. So there's a lot of options out there, and having a team to include a real estate agent, and Ebere and a 1031 advisor like Bobby, having that team behind you, having good painters, good, people that can renovate homes, having all of that with you it's the only way to be successful in this. People that you trust, who aren't just going to give you advice that's just for themselves.
So let me ask you, you said 26 years ago, what has been your best experience and what has been your worst experience?
Okay, worst experience, living out of state, not trusting a property manager, and getting stuck where I am not making enough rent off of a home, because I love my mom. My mom's awesome, but she did not increase the rent. She's super sweet. And a sweet property manager is wonderful. However, sometimes you need somebody who could be a little bit of a shark and really look at the market and be professional. And I was paying my mom too, because it's for me to give back to my family. But my biggest mistake, my biggest regret is looking back and not increasing the rent, as it should be.
So let's talk about that for a second. Mm-hmm. Because I'm on the spectrum of the sweet tenant, but here's my logic. If somebody has been with me for a while, mm-hmm. they've been paying rent faithfully every month, sure. I feel like my way of rewarding them and having them stay longer is not to necessarily increase the rent based on what's going on the market, but increase it. Like if the condo fees increase, I'll increase, because I feel like if you're paying and you've been there a while and you're kind of helping me pay down my mortgage, true, I kind of want you to benefit from that. And especially if it's, like 2 of our properties is, mm-hmm. single mothers with young children. So I don't know. I know several of us here are landlords. What do you think? Are you kind of like Team Sam or Team Ebere?
No, not at all. I think it's a service. Don't become a landlord if it's all about you. I'll say that right now. You're there to provide a service to your community. You must provide a service to your community. Improve the houses in a neighborhood. Don't be the landlord that just lets something go to crap. You've got to make it good for them. And I agree with you, Ebere, to a point. 300, I'll say, let me say, 20 up to 20% under. You don't, you know what I mean? Under market value. If it's more than 20%, that's not an investment anymore. Because if you look at it and that house is worth $400,000, right? $400,000 I should be making to make 7% back. I should be making, if you include the loan in this if you want to, but you should be making about $400 for every $1,000, $100,000. So I should be pulling in $1,600 minimum. You know what I mean? And if you're not, then you need to look at that. You need to actually do the numbers. And if market value, because real estate rentals, you should be making more than 10% back. If you're not making more than 10% back, then that may not be a good place to go to buy that rental. So I will say to a point, because it's not a charity, it's a business, right? So be charitable and be a good partner to your tenant to a point. It's not a charity. So if you're not making 7 to 10% on that home, and again, it's not cash flow, it's about the value of the home and the money that's coming in to match that value. And that could be going toward your mortgage, right? To pay down your mortgage, put all of it back in the mortgage, pay that puppy down. Sure. Unless you have unless you have a really good percentage. If you have a really good percentage, your rates are really good. Like you've had the house a while and it's at a 2.75, maybe don't pay that one off faster. But pay that down so that it can be cash flow at some point. If you're not making enough money on it, then there are other ways to invest where you'll make more. Okay. You know what I mean? It's a give and take. So I'd say maybe 15 to 20% can be in that form of, having that part. Another thing you can do, you can give them a month free at the end of the year. Okay. Keep market value and give them a month free at the end of the year for being a good tenant, or half a month free. Give them some benefit back. I've done that before too. But if it's matching market value perfectly, or if market value drops in the area, consider giving them something back. Don't lower the rent if you can all, because it's really hard to get it back up. If they're like, houses in the area are going for a lot less, say, okay, how about, if this partnership, I want you to stay, you're wonderful, I'll give you a half a month free at the end of the year. Work with them.
All right, so we have 3 questions. Uri, if we can do Uri's question by chat, so those are a few, let's throw out. She's asking who specifically should be in your team. What professionals do you need? So if we can post that in the chat so that we can move on to the next 2 questions. Eric is asking, how rigorous is your financial analysis on properties? Do you run 100 formulas on 3 pages, or is it something else?
It's more like a single page, honestly. I mean, you can't, there's too much up in the air. So to me, it's not about, it is about, are you going to get cash flow? That's a question. But you got to look at, do I want cash flow, or am I doing this for cash flow, or am I doing this for equity build and wealth building? You know what I mean? Am I looking long-term and I want to build this and I don't want the cash flow right now? Or are you at a point where you want the cash flow? So those are 2 different numbers. That's 2 different, running through those numbers are 2 different things. Either way, you need to look at, the total value of that property, the total amount that you expect to get for rent. What are the expenses that you're going to be faced with? What upgrades do you need to do on it? Do you want a property manager or not? And just doing that kind of a cost benefit analysis is so important. But I don't really do more than a 1-pager. I mean, she's probably, I don't know. Is that okay, Ebere? Am I okay to just do a 1-pager on mine?
Yeah, ours is 1 page, because the main thing is just really evaluating the ROI, the cash on cash, how much the risk, DTI ratio, the analysis of, is it going to give me the kind of, return on investment, the rehab cost. So yeah, for me, ours is a 1-page.
Yeah. And do you know people in that, if you're out of state, be careful. If you're going to invest out of state, that's great. I am investing out of state, but be careful. You've got to have good contractors. You've got to have good support. Yeah, Sharon, exactly. I just saw Sharon popped up. Got to have good contractors. I mean, I have good contractors in 3 different states. That didn't happen quickly. I made a lot of mistakes and trusted the wrong people on a few different, jobs. It can be challenging. It's more challenging when they're out of state though, because you can't just interview people. But Nextdoor, Angie's List, there's a few different systems out there that you can use to try and find someone, interview more than one company, talk to them about long-term. I want a long-term partner. I want somebody who can partner with me to improve this house and multiple houses over the course of such and such, talk to them about that partnership. Don't just let them know that it's not just a one and done sort of deal. I met with a painter today at a property for one of my clients. And I'm like, we need the best price for this because they want to keep this as a rental. She's moving. So rent or sell, like rent. It's in DC, rent. So, and it's in a great location. So I talked to the painter today. I met him in person for my client. And I said, give me a good price. It's this and this. I want you to do, baseboards. We talked about everything he wants to do. And I was like, I need you to give me a good price because we can bring you a lot of work. So
Edith says here, how do you evaluate rent increases with government tenants?
Do you mean like somebody who has
Section 8?
Section 8. Okay. If they have a voucher in Section 8, usually they're really, at least where I am, they're really good.
The vouchers are high.
Vouchers are high. Honestly, the only issue I have with placing people, because I help people find rentals too. And so I actually have a few, in fact, I got to respond back to somebody with Section 8 as soon as we get off the phone or I get off of this call with you all. The biggest challenge when it comes to Section 8, it's not getting the increases and having them be able to afford the increases. It's for them to find places that are going to be accepting, because good places, you all are going to own the places like I do. If it's a good place, and Sharon and I have renovated it well, Sharon, I'm with you, renovate it for mid to upper, because you're going to attract more people to come in. And if you've done that, then you're going to get 5 or 6 people applying for a home. And then are you going to pick the person with the Section 8? Or are you going to pick the person with 5 times their rental income? I want to help them. And I have had Section 8 people in my homes before. But it's not, they're going to increase. They're going to get increases to match the market. So honestly, look it up. If you have one in an area, look up what they're in your specific zip code, because Section 8 goes by zip codes. Look up in that particular zip code with their situation, their family situation, what they should be making there, what they're allowed to get, and what they're allowed to ask for and claim. And then if they're good and they've been treating the property well, and then see if you can match it and keep it to match them. Be careful when you do upgrades too. That's another thing I'll say. If you already have a tenant in a home, be careful what upgrades you do if you're going to do a big upgrade, and talk to them about it ahead of time. Because if you upgrade it beyond their price point, whoever's in it, and they're not willing to increase their rent, you're stuck.
Yeah.
You can only increase it so much. But every state's going to have a different rule on how much you can increase. And I know the DC laws, the Maryland laws, the Virginia laws, the Florida laws, and the Oregon laws. And they're a lot similar in how they all have a limit on how much you can increase rent per year. So don't think, hey, I can put $40,000 and I got an extra 40 grand. I want to invest it in a brand new kitchen. Do that between the renters. If you do that when you have one renter in it, then it can be difficult to recoup that money.